you. Ms. Claire, you have a director's report for us this evening?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I don't have anything to report, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the planning commissioners have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Slow one? Slow. Moving on. Upcoming meetings and activities. Next Tuesday, we have Board of Historic and Architectural Review meeting. The June 18th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals has been canceled. Town Council committee meetings are on the 24th of June at 3 o'clock. Next Town Council meeting is July the 2nd at 6:30. And our next meeting as a body is July 9th at 6:30. Public comments. Do we have anyone signed up? Anyone here who didn't sign up who wishes to speak? Seeing none, we will move forward. Planning Commission comments. Anybody have anything they need to get off the chest this evening?
Nope.
We good? All right, moving on. Item number 5, entrance corridor overlay review, 13420 Ben's Church Boulevard. Ms. Carey, you have a staff report for us?
Yes, thank you. The applicants are seeking ECO approval for a new 32.2 square foot wall sign. It will have channel letters on a raceway, which will read small cakes and cupcakery. The 32-inch by 145-inch wall sign will feature white individual letters. We have spoken with the applicant since the drafting of this staff report, and the logo will be opaque, as well as the brown background of the cupcakery. Town staff do find that this is in compliance with the Smithfield zoning ordinance in regards to the signage, and do recommend that approval would be contingent on the applicant obtaining a sign permit and application fee.
Great,
Thank you.
Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on behalf of the application or provide us with samples of the new cupcakes coming to town?
I already asked that.
Just making sure you're paying attention. Okay.
Sorry. I think we should table this until next month.
No, please don't, please don't.
If you would state your name and address for the record,
Sure,
please.
I'm Krista Pickrell, I'm with Cardinal Sign Corporation, so I'm here for Small Cakes Cupcakery. They're excited to be in your town, and they're looking for a sign. They're open and they're wanting their sign up, so we are
Okay.
here if you have any additional questions for, we started out on another way we've had to change due to the code ordinance that has changed recently for opaque backgrounds and opaque logos, so we did change for that. But any additional
Okay.
questions or anything that you might have?
Any questions for the applicant?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so is this sign, is it pretty much the same as the signs that's already there at the mall?
Yes, in that shopping center, the landlord prefers white lettering, which is what we're going for, white lettering, and then the logos could be of a color of their corporate colors, which we were going for. So it's basically the same as what is there now. Although the logos that are there now do illuminate, so this will be the first logo that will not illuminate. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions for the applicant?
Your cupcake and your cup on the logo will still illuminate, correct?
no, the code says it has to be opaque. So at night, it'll be black. It won't show up. It'll just be
can
the
be
letters.
Thought the
Backlit.
background had to be opaque, but not the whole sign.
All right.
Yeah, the film or whatever has to be opaque, but it can be backlit if they want to light it,
That's not what I was told.
right?
It states that the background or field on which the canopy and logos are placed is opaque, is what our zoning ordinance states.
Right, it just means it's not clear. Doesn't mean it's not lit.
Well, opaque means no light would come through the face. If it was translucent, then it would come through the face.
So my interpretation, because I was a big proponent of this, is let's look at your cupcakery part of this.
Sure.
That's a white background. We have discouraged white backgrounds that stay lit up because it just projects a lot of light. So we would want the white background of cupcakery to be opaque, but the cupcakery letters, with whatever light is inside, would highlight the cupcakery.
Correct. That was the second
Okay,
drawing we
and then
submitted. We
so
did
I would have
submit-
assumed
yes.
that the light up of the logo part, the main background, which is a purplish color, excuse my interpretation, but would be opaque, but the cupcake itself would be lit up. That would have been my interpretation of how we discussed this from before, but that was how my mind was anyways.
Mine too. There's some misinterpretation on our part. in the ordinance?
So because we just state logos, we don't differentiate between the parts of the logos that can be lit up. Again, we had the second submission, which was the opaque brown, allowing the white cupcakery to shine through, that we felt was in compliance with what the zoning ordinance stated.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't my intention to be quite that restrictive.
Yeah, so now on the wall, the sign will look off-center at night, so.
Darn,
That's exactly what my concern
Yes,
darn,
is. It will
yeah.
not look-
but the customer, I let him know that, and he said still move forward because he needs a sign, so.
Yeah.
So what we were trying to avoid is another business logo is a white background with red lettering. So we were trying to avoid the whole sign being lit up. So we wanted the white opaque and the red letters to show through on the light. And so that was where this opaqueness on the background has come into. So I don't think I meant for the whole logo thing to be changed. So I think it would look kind of funny not lit up.
Yes.
Yeah.
My interpretation is the logo should be treated the same as the letters.
Yes.
That was my interpretation.
Yes, usually when you have an opaque background, it's usually a cabinet sign, like that bottom, that the background would be the brown, and then the white letters would illuminate. Usually same thing as like in James City County, they do the exact same thing. They want an opaque background with white lettering, that's the only thing that would illuminate in the evening. This is just a little, I've never had this come up before in the 20 years I've been doing permitting, so to have something as restrictive as this, I kind of feel bad for my customer.
Is it,
But basically, you're saying that the customer wants to go ahead with.
He
the
wants
way
to
it's-
proceed
Because he
as
wants
this
a sign.
because he needs a sign. He's open, yes.
So,
But if he likes his logo to be lit, the cupcake, what is the brown stripes for the little cup? And
but
then
he
you have,
doesn't want to change the sign, he wants a sign.
what I'm saying is, if he prefers to do that in the future, I see no problem with it.
We could interpret it as the white part of the cupcake would be the background, and the logo would actually consist of the outline of the pink surrounding the cupcake, where that would still be opaque, and then the white would still shine through, lighting up the cupcake white part.
I would prefer that interpretation. I think that was our intention.
Exactly.
Only thing that's difficult with this is because this will be a digital print. So you either, you order an opaque digital print or you order a translucent digital print. You can't pick and choose that sort of thing for the logo.
Can you explain that a little further?
Sure.
right,
Now, the new thing now, people love digital prints. They want their logo to be their main logo up on all of their signs. So used to, you could just have, their letters that would say what they're, who they are. But now everybody's going towards digital prints, which I'm not a fan of. They don't last very long. The sun beats down on them, and within a couple of years, they yellow and they fade and they have to get a new one. But people want their corporate logos on everything, so they go for a digital print. So we order those and then attach those to the front of a white acrylic plastic, and that's what goes on it. So it's not vinyl, it's a digital print is what it is. Technically vinyl, but it's printed out and then shipped to us, and then we attach that to this. So it's one thing instead of multiple pieces of vinyl put onto the logo. So we have ordered, because I told them it needed to be opaque, we just ordered a couple days ago the opaque print. Not to say we can't order the translucent print, but we were just trying to go with what the new ordinance was stating.
This ordinance is fairly new to us.
Yeah.
The adjustments are fairly new to us.
Yeah.
And I think we're working through some of the perhaps unintended consequences
Right.
of,
Right.
and we want to be, friendly towards your client and his business
Right.
and get them what they want. I mean,
Right.
I don't, looking at my commission members over here, I don't think there's any issue of you getting this approved tonight.
Sure.
We're just trying to get it to approved in a manner that best suits your client
Of
and
course.
meets what our goals were
Sure.
for that. Am I out of line speaking that, fellow
I
members?
think you're right on.
No, I agree with everything you said. But even if you order that you wouldn't want my hand to do this, but could you not cut out with a razor blade your design and let that shine through on the white acrylic from the back? I mean, because if you took a razor blade, because what I'm understanding is you've ordered a circle, however big that is, 32 inches.
Right,
You've ordered that, and you're just gonna apply it, stick it up.
right,
No light's gonna shine through it because we said opaque.
correct.
But if you've already ordered it, can't you cut out the frosting and cut out the little cupcake thing out the vinyl? Once you adhere it, put it with a razor blade, peel it back, and then the white would shine through.
True,
And
but
then that way you get the transparency of the cupcake and the cup, and then we still have the opaqueness of the background
So,
without having to reorder the whole thing.
I'm thinking your logo, the circle, doesn't have a light in it.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Is that-
There's no
is that the
light
case?
behind that, right?
no, we have decided not to put the lighting in it. The LEDs will not be in that. Normally, it would have had the LEDs, but we've taken them out.
You've
Not to say
taken
we
them out.
can't put them back in.
I was gonna say, you could put them back in,
Yes,
though,
ma'am,
right?
we could put them back in.
So how about this? When it becomes time, because we're still in a public hearing, if we approve the sign the way that we intended it, and then allow the applicant to make whatever decisions now or in the future, if they so wish. That way, the sign's approved tonight, and then if we intended it to be the way that we're discussing, and they choose to make that change later on, they have the permissions already to do so. Would that satisfy what we're trying to get through tonight?
So, can you,
Yes.
what is exactly the change that would be allowed?
I believe what we're trying to do is allow for, in the logo, like
Yes.
the small cakes, cupcakery
Yeah,
as is
we
exactly
understood
what. In the logo, we want to allow for the icing to shine through, so that you have some light on that piece. What about the, ladies and gentlemen, the pink,
The cup.
the cup,
Yeah.
the actual cake piece and the circle around it? Are we also wishing for that to be able to shine through?
I'd be okay with that.
I would too.
I
I
think
mean,
it's part of the logo.
Yeah.
right, I would think
That's
that's
why,
what we want.
and so the brown would be the only part that would not shine through. The brown would be what's
Yeah.
opaque.
Yes.
Okay.
If the applicant did want the pink part, that, because it is part of the logo, they would have to come back for a special sign exception. Right now, the applicant is just seeking entrance corridor overlay review for the sign.
To make the cupcake,
You understand the logo?
to illuminate the cupcake,
The pink
the
section?
cup, the
The-
same as the
yes.
icing,
Yeah.
Yes,
she would have to come back for that.
for a special sign exception, because the logo would no longer be opaque.
The upshot is if you want the sign the way it's presented, you don't have to do anything.
Correct.
If I'm
So-
gonna ask a question about the way the sign's presented. I got one that says small cakes in white. The cupcakery is in white with brown letters, and then I got the second one that is this white, small cakes, and then cupcakery brown with white letters.
Yeah, there's two different
Yeah.
ones.
Which way are we going?
We had discussed with the applicant, once we identified that it needed to be opaque, they resubmitted this second one, which has, it's going to have the opaque brown background with the lit cupcakery.
Oh, okay, so that's the,
Okay, so
Current one.
the second one is the current one.
So do we have any of this in the form of a motion, ladies and gentlemen?
We're still in a public hearing.
There is not a public hearing.
There's not a public hearing on
It's
this
not a
item.
public hearing.
We'll do that later.
Yeah,
Madam Chair, I recommend
We'll
that
let
we
the public-
recommend our, to town council as submitted.
This is planning commission approval.
I'd like to discuss it further, but I don't want to spend money on somebody else's money that we don't have to. I'd rather make a decision tonight and not have to make this man buy another sign or another piece of a sign and pay for somebody to come out, set a truck up, redo it. We're spending money, we're wasting money for no reason. We don't need to be wasting money. We don't need to be wasting somebody's money for no reason. So if we can rectify this tonight, find out what she knows the applicant wants, see if it's reasonable, and make the recommendation to town council, it'll save them some
this
hassle
is
and money.
for us to approve.
Right.
Yep.
Well, okay,
It's not going to
but
council.
I don't want to just say approve as presented, and then he comes back next month, and after he's paid to get a sign up over his building, and he comes back in 2 or 3 months and has to spend $1,000 1,500, I don't have any idea what the signs cost and how to do this and spend the money. It's a waste of money. We shouldn't be wasting people's money if we can help it. And it just takes a little bit more time on our part to get a little bit of feedback from her to make this decision. So I'm going to deny the request to present as presented right now until we hear more from our applicant about what she thinks her client may wish. Because I'm not sure you understand what we're asking for.
Well, I understand. I'm looking at the logo right now. So originally it was supposed to be opaque, couldn't be seen. Now we're talking about allowing the white of the icing to be lit and the light pink and to be lit, but all of the brown to be opaque?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
So in order to get, if the cup, this is my interpretation, you've got white icing, no problem, it's white. But if you want pink on your sign, that's going to require a special sign exemption because it's a funny color because we want white lettering, correct? Based on the white LEDs and all that. So if that cup were to be white, that would simplify things. And it shines through to project his logo, although it may not be perfect.
Is it a franchised
Yes, ma'am.
situation?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this logo is what the franchisee is to
Yes.
use,
Yes,
whether it's opaque or not?
yes.
Is it all connected? Is the logo connected to the words?
No, it's separate.
Separate?
Separate cabinet. It's a circular cabinet that's separate from the letters. The letters are individual letters, and then the cupcakery box is underneath it. So it's almost like 3 separate individual pieces.
Well, I'm just thinking here. Seems to me that do you think he'd be amenable to we just allow him to put up his small cakes, cupcakery stuff, and then we fix it so he can fix his logo like he wants it? I mean, do they have to both go up at the same time? Is that a big problem?
Yeah, because everything's on the same raceway. The raceway goes behind the logo and the small cakes.
Well, still, if we were to approve that the white icing, because we can approve the white icing without a special sign exception, if we approve that tonight, that can be lit, it is then up to the applicant to either go with what they have, as done, or not.
Light up the white.
And they don't have to come back before us. And if they want to do it in the future, they can, again, or not. But that way, because they can reduce the requirement, but they don't have anything they got to pick it up to. Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, it makes sense. And I agree with what Dr. Pope is saying. But to me, the logo, in my opinion, should be treated like the letters. And if so, if the letters were the same color as the cup, would we have an issue approving it? Simply because the letters was a different color?
Well, we can approve white lettering without a special sign exception. Any colored lettering, it requires a special sign exception.
Right.
So in this case, we can approve the white icing, but the pink and the cake and the surrounding would require a special sign exception.
Okay. All right, I got it.
So my point to her was, is if she wishes to make the cup white, it would require no further sign exemptions or anything.
But
And
it
and you still get a lidded logo, maybe not to the exact color of the franchise.
Yeah.
But if you had to go to a community in which everything was monochrome anyways, you might say, it's more important to light our logo than it is to have a thing. That's a decision y'all have to make. I'm trying to make it such that if you say that's agreeable, we can make this easy and wrap it up. Or we can just present it as it is and you can come back later. And I'm trying not to spend more of your money than
No,
necessary.
Totally, completely understand. I think he's okay with moving forward as this because having it as the white on the brown, tacky, is not their logo. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if he would want to move forward with something like that. Because this is really toned down compared to what their signs normally look like. So. Yeah.
And I guess we
We'll
got our
just-
answer, Mr. Davidson.
Okay.
Beg your pardon?
Said, I guess we have our answer, Mr. Davidson.
So we had a motion from Mr. Davidson, I believe, to approve as presented.
Second.
Yes.
Call for the question, please.
Mr. Bryan?
I want to be clear with the applicant.
My motion's on the floor, that,
She, if I understood, she wants to move forward as the application is presented.
Correct. That's what the motion is, yes, sir.
That's what the motion is.
Yes.
Mr. Pack?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davidson?
Yes.
And Chairwoman Hillegas?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Sorry we're so problematic for you. Item number
Small
6
cakes.
is a public hearing. I will open the public hearing at this time. We have a staff report on this item.
Yes, thank you. At the Tuesday, May 14th Planning Commission meeting, staff did present the following potential regulations for donation boxes. We provided a definition for a donation box, and I will highlight the changes for Article 2P18, since this was a discussion item last month. We did make donation boxes permitted with Planning Commission approval. We added item 3, that they shall be limited to 3 per location. Item 6, they shall be not be located closer than 100 feet from a residential district. And then we did have item 7, which kept it at 6 cubic yards. However, staff does recommend that we decrease this amount as we went out and measured the DAB, and we have them at approximately 3.5 cubic yards, so we suggest not more than 4 cubic yards. Also, item 8, that they are constructed of painted metal, plastic, or a suitable material. And then item 12, if unable to comply, the applicant can apply for a special use permit for the proposed donation box and location. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Public hearing is now open. Do we have anyone signed up to speak? Anyone here who would like to speak that didn't get a chance to sign up? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing. Any planning commission discussion?
No, I'm in favor if you think 4 cubic feet is a reasonable change,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with that.
And this will be a recommendation to town council, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Well, a couple of things. I looked at Leesburg, and they get input from their fire department. Should anyone would think we have a need for that? For the local department to approve placement of these donation boxes?
Because this is coming before Planning Commission for their approval of any donation boxes, Planning Commission could certainly, during the application process, request comments from the fire department.
I think it's a good point, because you don't want it so close to a building that a fire truck can't get through, or an EMS vehicle.
Placed in a position where they want to be.
Correct, correct.
We do have fire lanes written in here, that you cannot obstruct fire lanes, which
Should cover it.
should cover it, but having fire department review is not the worst idea. It's not a bad idea, it's a good idea. I mean, Charles, it's a good idea.
It's good. It's not just not the worst, it's pretty darn good, right?
And secondly, a schedule. When these entities, who owns these donation boxes, how often would they pick up?
Yeah.
Is that part of, do we have something to
Well,
cover that?
I think by not allowing donation to be left outside the
Right.
donation box,
No overflow.
we don't have to worry about that, because honestly, if you put clothes in one of these boxes and they sit there forever, that's not a public eyesore, and that's kind of what we're trying to avoid.
Yes. Again, Leesburg, they put a schedule for pickup in their ordinance. In the permit, there's a schedule, how often it should be picked up. Just making a point, just to make certain we're not overlooking something.
That would be very difficult for town staff to enforce and maintain.
Yeah.
Okay.
and keep track of as well. Again, with it not being outside of the donation box, at least on our code sweeps, we could identify and contact them if we noticed any sort of overflow.
Well, let me ask you this. Overflow, how often have you experienced that?
Things left out in the weather.
Right now, we don't have a regulation for donation boxes, so
No,
we
I'm
are
asking for
not-
incidents of overflow.
we don't currently regulate them, so we don't have any
They
documented.
haven't been monitoring that, Charles,
We-
because we don't have an ordinance.
So creating this ordinance, that is a point that we would consider, including. The collection schedule, to make certain, well,
Why?
I get it, I get it.
I think somebody's going to have to complain about it before it becomes a investigation type thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm looking at the one, the kids come first, and the one next to the Supreme station. They're pretty beat up.
That was one of the points I wanted to make. I was looking at maybe number 8. They shall be properly maintained in a safe and good condition. I thought perhaps we could change that language, and I haven't thought of a good way to change it, but neat appearance or tidy or clean or,
It's
you know.
like new state,
I'm sorry?
like new state.
Yeah.
As much as possible.
And then, Mr. Riddick, perhaps with your English major, you can help us with that a little bit. That's, 'cause that's one of the thoughts I had as well, Ms. Smith.
Aesthetically pleasing.
All those area terms are so gray, I don't know how to define one. And I know that Ms. Clary and her staff's not gonna go around and go, well, you know, you really should paint that, but it would at least give us a tool, if it did become unsightly, to say, well, listen, you're out of compliance, you need to clean it up, it looks run down.
And in Leesburg, it's, they're, I don't know, they're looked after by the zoning administrator. Who's that?
That's me.
Okay, well, we don't want that.
There's,
Yeah, that just puts an onerous amount of work on the staff.
It
And-
It does.
It does, but if we put in the ordinance that it needs to be a neat appearance,
And then.
and then we need to do something about it, it doesn't mean that Tammy has to go around and checking these out once a week. Oh, look, I looked at the DAV, they still look blue, they got 2 scratches, but you know.
get the DAV, I'll get this one.
Right, but,
good substantial condition and a neat and tidy appearance.
maintain in a safe and good condition and neat and tidy appearance.
That's fine, whatever.
I mean-
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that what you're recommending?
something like that.
Something like
You
that.
know, you can,
Massage that a little bit. Anything else?
Well, number 6 does state that they shall not be located closer than 100 feet from a residential district. But we also want to make sure that they're far enough away from any building so that a fire truck can get through. And I don't know what that needs to be. Is that 16 feet,
Well-
25 feet?
that, no, because look at Main Street, there's one right next to the building, and that doesn't bother anybody. Neither does the True Value, neither does the DAV. I think that's not necessary.
We have them out of the fire lanes, so that's important. And then if we have the fire department review the placement, like Mr. Bryan recommended, that,
The only 2 I'm thinking about are the ones that are like freestanding out in the field, and one that's, well, obviously the kids come first, but the one that is at the Supreme, that's next to a road, that's not a problem. But there's the one
Beside Taco Bell in the middle of the
beside
parking
Taco
lot.
Bell,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
I think they should be next to a building. I don't think they should be in the middle of a parking lot somewhere, just randomly sat down.
Just,
Because that actually is what entices people to just dump stuff in.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Because they're not gonna read, they're not gonna heed the sign. They'll see it, they may read it, but they're not gonna heed it. They got stuff, somebody was told to drop it off, they're gonna drop it off.
And I thought And I missed it. Thought we talked about last meeting, these are gonna be governed by a special use permit, so all that stuff's gonna be reviewed prior to placement anyways.
We didn't include it as a special use permit. It's permitted with planning commission approval, meaning they would come before planning commission for planning commission to approve the donation boxes. And then if they wanted to deviate from any of these requirements, they have the option of obtaining a special use permit.
Okay.
And one other thing, thinking about our landscaping ordinances and our inability to enforce that, Chesterfield, they impose a fine whenever a box is covered with overflow. If we find our situation, the town find itself in that situation, and it
No.
falls to the town to
Mr.
clean it
Mr.
up.
Brown, fines, then you're going to court, and then you will incur more money to impose the fine than the fine
Then it
will
will
be.
generate, yeah.
It'll cost $300 or $400 to take somebody to court to impose a $50 fine, so I don't think that's a very good idea.
Okay. I just wanted to put it on the table, to make sure we thoroughly vet this.
Violations of the zoning ordinance are a Class 1 misdemeanor,
Okay.
believe it or not. And
I was gonna say your punishment would be so many violations and we withdraw
well, you can just,
approval for use.
yeah, you can withdraw approval and say they have to get rid of it.
Just remove it. Okay.
Anything
I
else?
was just thinking of town expense. That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking about.
Yeah,
Okay. Attorney Riddick, thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything else?
What are we doing about the ones that are in existence now? Are we gonna ask them to come into compliance?
Yes. Because it's a standard, it's not,
Okay.
Right.
it's not a use, you're not changing the use, you're imposing a standard and you need to bring it up to a standard. I don't think you got any problems except for Kids Come First and the one at Supreme, the rest of them look like they're in pretty good.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the one in the, taking up a parking spot at the BK parking lot and one in the Taco Bell parking lot.
Well,
I'm like, man, I'm not really crazy, because I like Dr. Pope's suggestion that they're up against a building and they may or may not make sense. They don't all make sense to do that.
well, they've chosen to put them there, and whoever put them there decided that it's okay for their parking to be impacted. Correct?
Well, if they decide it's okay, doesn't mean that they remain compliant with the parking ordinance.
Well, I understand that, but in other words.
Yeah, I mean, does that one space, is that the tipping point for the number of spaces they have to have?
We're really getting in the weeds here, but,
Yeah.
geez. When we just start allowing these anywhere, I don't like the ones in the middle of the Taco Bell parking lot. I think they,
Because if they came before me and asked if this is where they're gonna put it, I would say I'd have a problem with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so then why do you have a problem with that? None of your ordinance says it has to be anywhere. You just have to approve where it is. And we say, well, we don't like it there. That's not enough ground for us to stand on.
Yeah.
Well, that's the point of doing the ordinances, because I
Right.
just don't like these things randomly showing up all over the parking lot.
I mean, I believe the ones on the Taco Bell parking lot are like, they're certainly within sight of the Route 10 there.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that we, as much as we complain about not having our shrubberies taken care of and when our town will look good, and then we throw up 2 red donation spots right there within eyesight of everybody else, that's not really what we want to see. So if we're going to say that's not what we want to see, we do need to say, okay, well, they can't just sit in the middle of a parking lot. We have to have a reasoning in our ordinance to make this happen.
They were never permitted in the first place, so if you adopt some regulations, you could make them move.
And that's kind of what we're going here. So what regulation would we like to adopt to do that?
You're saying you'd like it up by the building, is that what you're saying, Randy?
Generally, yes, but the one at the Supreme gas station doesn't particularly bother me. It's kind of hidden. And Kids Come First, I've never noticed it, but when I look at it here on the picture, it looks pretty odd just sitting in the middle of the field there. And the one in the BK parking lot, I don't think I'd like to see that. There's a fence that could put it by, and
require that they be next to the building, there will not be one at the Burger King or the Taco Bell.
Or the Taco Bell, yeah,
They're not
that's right.
gonna permit that.
Understood, but
Yeah,
that doesn't bother me.
maybe- Why not? Maybe that's fine, but I'm saying,
Yeah,
But if one of these companies were to approach Smithfield Foods and say, look, you're not using the old Smithfield packing parking lot, can we put 10 boxes out there? You know, that's the same thing, it's just randomly
Sure.
going in a parking lot that nobody's really using. That's not really what we want either.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I mean, Kids Come First could move right by the building. The Supreme gas station one could move right by a building. These here at True Value, you know, they're smaller. So, you know, if they're maybe post office box size that we allow them to be on the street, like the Lions one there at True Value is not the same as the one at Kids Come First or even the Burger King parking lot, which it looks probably to be the same as the ones at the DAV, or pretty close to.
Yes, but number 3 limits the number of boxes at a location.
Yeah, I'm just being facetious. I just don't want them to randomly show up in
Okay.
unused parking lots
Yeah.
where people,
Agreed.
my point is if a company feels strongly they want these donation boxes, they should take some responsibility and put them by their building. They shouldn't just randomly show up all over town just because some company wants to come through and drop them down. That's the whole point of this, and it just seems like they're random. DAV has a purpose, but if Taco Bell feels so strongly on their boxes, then they should take responsibility, put them somewhere that makes sense on their property.
I would
But-
bet you the farm, the Taco Bell doesn't
Yeah,
have anything to do.
They're not
with it.
No, they don't
affiliated
have
with it
anything
at
to
all,
It's
yeah.
the
But
company that put
It's
them.
whoever the proprietor of the shopping center is allowed them to do it.
Or not, I mean, that's really
Or
the
may,
question.
or not,
Or
or
not.
not. You're
Yeah.
right, they may not, they might have just,
They might have just dropped.
they just might have dropped them there.
So all I want them to do is take responsibility for us, come to us with a plan of what they want to do with it, and make sure it's in a decent location that we determine is not an eyesore,
How about?
based on whoever's sitting in these chairs at the time they come before them.
How about 13, that we strongly recommend they be placed against a building or fence
Yeah,
or shrubberies?
barrier.
Or other such location that does not interfere with traffic.
There you go.
It's kind of hard to find.
Yes.
You got all that?
Public right away.
Working on it.
setback,
Anything else? Do we have a motion for recommendation to council?
I would move that we make a favorable recommendation to council with the changes presented, with an addition of item 13 and the changes to number 8 that allow it to be a neat and tidy appearance, and additionally that the fire department review the location before it is finally decided. Those are the 3 changes we had.
Just to clarify, we have the fire department review the placement. Number 7, the 4 cubic feet. Number 8.
Cubic yards, right?
Yes, sorry, cubic yards. Number 8, the safe and good substantial condition and neat and tidy appearance. And number 13, recommend near building and fencing where it does not interfere with traffic.
That is my motion.
I would second that.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second, ladies and gentlemen. Any further discussion? Call for the question, please.
Mr. Yoko?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Pope?
Yes.
Mr. Pack?
Yes.
Mr. Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Chair Davison?
Yes,
And Chairwoman Hilligas?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is approval of the Tuesday, April 9th minutes. Mr. Riddick.
Madam Chairman, and members of the planning commission, I've reviewed them and recommend that this set of minutes as well as the next set of minutes be approved as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the April and May meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Anything else for the good of the cause, ladies and gentlemen?
You might want to, given what just happened with the sign, apparently there's a problem there we probably need to fix somehow, because it's gonna happen again.
Yeah.
And so we need to probably not that we just amended the sign ordinance, but we probably need to think,
I think it's an interpretation issue.
is it
I think it's the difference in the word opaque
in
and
translucent?
translucent
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
as compared to clear.
Right.
yeah,
We don't want clear,
right.
we would like an opaque-ish translucent.
We define opaque as 100% opaqueness.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Can't see through it at all.
And that's it.
Translucent is the one we want in there then.
Yeah.
It might be translucent that you want instead of opaque.
Yeah.
All
But
right,
I do think that we need to pay attention, and we want to be friendly to the businesses. If they have a logo, I mean, like a nationwide logo or whatever, I think we need to be able to consider that as part of their signage. I know when Tropical Smoothie went in, they wanted certain colors and all, and there was a big to-do. But it was the national, you know, the way that their colors were.
right, they have a style book all their own.
Right.
We also looked right in the same parking lot of the BP up front, and they were gonna put remember the breakfast place in the back that we approved but didn't get built right before COVID? And we were not favorable to their signs at that point. I mean, I think we were more favorable to the cupcake sign because, in my eyes, it was more attractive than a BP logo, this bright green colors. I thought the neutral colors, the light pink and the tan, and brown, I was more favorable to.
Ultimately, if you want to be business friendly, there are many franchises that will not go in places where they cannot put their logos on signs.
That's true,
So,
That's true.
that's true.
So
All
if we
right.
got an Arby's, it'd be a big cowboy.
If there's nothing further, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't need a gavel.
Oh, man.